Hey everybody, welcome to Office Hours with Dylan Hutchison, where we highlight the great people of the cybersecurity channel. I'm joined by Jim Bryant. Jim, how you doing today, sir?
Man, I'm doing great.
Good, good. Glad to have it. I will say the weather is a little bit nicer than the last time we spoke. Last time you and I spoke, we were worried about you getting to your sales kickoff, and now there's no snow on the ground, but we're still here in the 30s. I don't know about you.
Yeah, we climbed up into the lower 50s, so I'm pretty happy right now.
Oh man, I'm gonna take a
Yeah,
trip out and see you.
it's sunny and either high 40s or low 50s, so we're in good shape.
So it's not a pain to get out and go see the clients. You don't have to
No,
hibernate.
not at all. This is like perfect weather. So everybody was itching to get back out. We talked about that yesterday.
Oh yeah, and I see you've got the sweet Pinnacle quarter zip. Those are pretty gnarly. I
How
like
about
that.
that? Yeah, new duds and wore this one for the first time today. So especially for the show.
Looking sharp, man. You're looking sharp. So, Jim, for those that haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, if you want to take a second and give an intro of yourself, really that origin story of who Jim is.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Yeah, I'm Jim Bryant. I'm with Pinnacle IT here in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and been doing this for a long time. When I'm thinking about talking to you and kind of recounting all that, I'm like, man, it started a long time ago. So I'll give
Take
away
us that
my,
trip down memory lane.
yeah, I'll give you, it'll give away my age for sure. So I graduated high school in 1980. That kind of sets the counter so you can do the math. But anyway, late 70s, I kind of got my interest sparked in computers. And so that's what I decided to pursue in college. I took my first college course actually while I was in high school here at Arkansas State University and took a basic programming class. Loved that. Decided I'd try to pursue that somewhere. Went to Rhodes College in Memphis and did a earned a bachelor's in math and computer science. And while I was there, I really studied on a small mainframe environment, so it was a lot different than what we all interact with today, obviously, because that's a long time ago. Um, but my first day on the job, oddly enough, I went directly to school at IBM to learn about the PC, and I had never even seen one before. So I felt like I'd been in a hole, although I'd just earned my bachelor's degree. I felt like I'd been in a hole to some degree. But we had seen a little bit of PCs and so forth, but we just weren't prepared, when we came out into
Mm-hmm.
the marketplace, and they were brand new, essentially. So it was a great school and got me off to a good start with a retail company and worked there for about a year and then moved on to a programming job. I decided I wanted to try the programming and worked at that for a small company here locally for a while and about a year or so, I think. And then I moved to a corporate job as more of a programmer and a technician, if you will. Had some great opportunities there. They let me do a lot of things, taught me a lot of things. I actually ended up serving a couple of years as a database administrator in a mainframe environment. So I've learned, it's been all over the board. The old mainframe, big iron they called it, and PCs and everything in between, networks, servers. So I've had a lot of experience and a lot of opportunity. In 1988, I guess in 19 moved to my first corporate job as a technician and programmer, and then right after that, 92, about 6 years later in 92, I moved to my first IT management job, and then on to be an IT director, and then an IT director in a large healthcare corporation here locally. In 2005, left the corporate world. It took a little bit of time, and then decided to start this business. And first, we just did B2B IT support, break
Mm-hmm.
fix. Really, we were hungry, so we did anything and everything for everybody. And a lot of businesses like ours probably started that way. And so that eventually, it kind of morphed into um, what we've become today, a real MSP and so forth. But yeah, that's the quick history of, where I came from, how I got here.
So, tell me why you decided to leave the corporate IT world and pursue the entrepreneurship journey.
That's a great question because it was two, and I was, 40 something and trying to decide. I felt like I was still trying to decide what I wanted to do when I grew up, so,
Yep.
and with the opportunity to kind of pause for a minute and look at that, it really, I considered several things. I looked at, franchises of different types, website creation was becoming a big thing, and looked
Mm-hmm.
at some opportunities there. I looked at becoming an ISP, internet service provider, for a little while, and you know, just all those different things. But I decided that what I had been doing, just serving people and their computing needs, was really where my strong suit was, and and the variety of opportunities that it would present. So took a plunge with some friends, and had a partner that stayed with me all the way, and the rest is history.
So, being in the space for so long and then starting your MSP and, eventually becoming Pinnacle IT, talk to me about how you've grown in the space over, these last 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Working with new clients, new challenges, more importantly, new technologies. You talked about, hey, I was working with mainframes, saw my first PC. Now we're talking about AI and whatnot. Talk to me about how you've grown with those new challenges.
You have to. The staying up with the technology has been the challenge all along. And, when you become a business owner and you have to wear all the hats, I made every mistake that you can make, and probably in getting started in a business, because you really think you're just going to hang out a shingle and do what you do, but
Hmm.
you really have to manage the business and worry about employees, if you decide to hire people, and those things. So we had all of those challenges come along. And in the midst of that, you got to stay up with the technology somehow. And I really feel like in some ways I kind of fell behind for a little while, or I probably would have found my way to becoming an MSP a little bit sooner. But man, you get your head down working hard in a business, and it's hard to look up. But as we know in technology, if you don't keep up, you will be left behind very quickly. So in the beginning, I think 2005 timeframe, 2006, when we really got started, again, we were just helping people keep things running. They weren't really small businesses around here. A lot of them weren't really managing IT at the time. And healthcare had already crossed the HIPAA compliance, requirements. I was in healthcare at a hospital when that all came along, and learned it well. So that served us well. We got a lot of healthcare clients early on in our business, and we knew how to work there. We knew how to help them be compliant,
Oh, very
and
cool.
that really pushed, the cybersecurity conversation early, in that space. And as you know, over the years, it's become, really relevant in any conversation. So, today compared to 2006, every conversation has cybersecurity in it, not just in healthcare or those places where there are compliance requirements. So, it's been a big change. And AI coming along now, I've had a few conversations about that, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I've got one client that's been with me since we started, really, and we've worked hard together to keep up with technology for them. They're actually in the agriculture space, and they're using AI for analyzing their own data. So really, kind of a business intelligence tool for them. And then we have other folks who still, don't have time to look up and see what AI is. So got quite a
Exactly.
variety, got quite a variety of clients out there.
So I want to go back to something you said earlier where a problem or a challenge as a MSP owner for you was keeping up with the technology. I want to highlight that because as IT security professionals, it is our job to stay up with these technologies, but they're coming out so rapidly that it's hard to keep up. So would you have vendors banging on your doors, or were you mapping to compliance frameworks, or how did you stay up with technology?
I thought you were going to do a long list, and I could just say yes to all the above.
I
You know,
wish
we
that was the case.
yeah, we tried it all. We had vendors banging on the door, and I would listen to new technologies and new tools, and you filter through those as you go, and you do learn some things and find some new toolkits, and that's kind of how we made our way into the MSP space. Is we
Hmm.
had to have a set of tools that would work for us to help us manage the clients that we had, and the I think the as much as learning the technology or keeping up with the technology, we had to learn how to manage those clients and bring them along with the idea of, hey, we're going to manage this rather than just react to it, and try
Hmm.
to leverage it and keep it working for you instead of just being an interruption from time to time. So looking for tools to help automate those things really helped, help us keep up and so forth. So I think just the challenge, the everyday challenge of business drove us to look for tools. We had people bringing us tools, and I always found value. I did when I was in the corporate world, and I do to this day. That's how you and I got here. I find it important to talk to other people about the business, understand, what they're up against and how they do things. So, I think probably one of the best things I ever did was I enrolled in well, I did it with a couple of different companies, just kind of marketing coaching, if you would, for
Mm-hmm.
MSPs, and found myself in a group of MSPs. We all fit together pretty well. We all had our own personalities, and we were all in different markets, and so it was easy to share, what the current challenges were, how we were fighting those battles, and what technologies were important. That escalated my knowledge, and it improved the pace at which I was acquiring the information I needed to be able to serve my clients. So I would say peer group collaboration was the big deal for me.
I like that. And it really drives home on, a message that we talk about a lot is the power of networking. I mean, Jim, you and I met because we both have the unfortunate pleasure of knowing Andy Runyon.
Right.
Andy, we love you. But I want to talk about the MSP cooperation, those peer groups. I know you said the peer groups you were involved in were different markets. You guys didn't have any overlap. I want to talk about something. We talked about this on a call a couple weeks ago, where we're shifting from competition to co-opetition in our own neighborhoods and our own markets. You and I talked. There's a MSP popping up every 2.5 blocks
Oh,
in
wow.
your towns. And as more small businesses understand that they need a valued partner to address risk or keep up with technologies, all those different challenges, that has caused MSPs to basically come out of the woodworks. Rather than viewing those MSPs as competition, how have you maybe embraced those relationships to work alongside of them?
Well, it's interesting. That's a great question, and we haven't, honestly, we haven't seen a whole lot of the co-opetition yet, in our marketplace. We know of each other. In some cases, we know each other,
Mm-hmm.
and we cross paths occasionally and all that. We seldom do anything to get together on purpose, and
Yeah.
kind of talk about the business or, anything like that. And I don't think it's necessarily because we wouldn't. It's just not a priority yet
Mm-hmm.
for some reason. Now we see each other, we'll see each other at local chamber events and, things of that nature. But when I think about Pinnacle, being the size that it is and serving Arkansas and surrounding states, I can't just speak to the local market. Our CEO is in a peer group, and I don't know if they're all in technology, but he gets the benefit of having a peer group like that. And then I have peers inside the organization, so I'm not looking out at my local competition very often as, somebody to collaborate with. But
Mm-hmm.
what I do see in the community from time to time are opportunities for us. We'll have a little seminar or something locally, and some of those guys will show up, and then vice versa. They'll do something interesting to me, and I'll show up. We'll have a conversation and things like that. So if I wanted to claim that we were being not just competitors and co-oping in some way, I'd say we do it for education,
Yeah.
and we learn about each other in that process too. But we're not there just to spy on each other. We are interested in the same things. We do a cybersecurity seminar. Folks will show up, and the same with them. If I can, I missed an opportunity to be at a local event on AI where one of my competitors was presenting, and I would have loved to have been there because I respect them a lot
Mm-hmm.
and would love to hear from him. And because I just never get to, I would have loved to be there. And so I think we will see more of that, as time goes on, because just like with any other industry, if you respect your competitors and you guys are all, working in high integrity and so forth, there are opportunities to collaborate with each other.
That's the most important part there is operating with the high integrity. And there's nothing wrong with competition. And the reason I call it co-opetition is because there's still that competitive edge. At the end of the day, we're businesses, we're here to make money. But there are times where we can come together and educate these customers. There might be opportunities down the line, maybe once you build those friendships and relationships with those competitors, where you could do maybe a joint chamber event where it makes sense. And we talked about MSPs are popping up every which way. There are clients that are a really great fit for Pinnacle. There might be clients that are not such a great fit for Pinnacle that might be a better fit for those other customers, same way, vice versa. And that's where I think we'll start to see more of that co-opetition,
Right.
especially as MSPs really focus in on certain compliance frameworks, for example. That's just an idea. So I'm very curious to see where that goes. So shifting over to the client side, shifted over the past few years, and I'm looking specifically here at maybe the evolving cyber insurance requirements, or moving forward with different compliance frameworks that are going to be applicable to these businesses. How have you seen the conversations shift from being tool focused to more security program focused over the past couple of years?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I first started, not so much recent years, but when I first started, we were all about bringing solutions to people for, business problems. It was, that's why I enjoyed the programming. I could take, some toolkit and solve a problem for somebody, and I still enjoy doing that when I have the opportunity. But that kind of has all morphed into, we got to be concerned about cyber security, first. And that's unfortunate, that it has to lead every conversation and so on and so forth. But
Mm-hmm.
it's imperative. You emphasized earlier that it's imperative that we stay up on the technology, that we stay current and can advise people well. That's what they're expecting us to do, right? I'm almost a fan of the idea of licensing businesses like ours, where you have to keep up with a certain amount of education and so on and so forth. Not to add another layer of government or anything like that, but more like CPAs and attorneys and things like that, where you're truly a vetted professional, if you would.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think the conversation has changed because I'll give you a couple of examples. One is I had a client come to me, a potential client come to me because we had a certain skill set that they knew that we were good at, and they also do business with Japan. Their clients are primarily in Japan. It's an agriculture company. They export grain, and so they're very concerned about the conversations, the technical conversations they're having, and the connections they make with anybody who's offshore. And just because they're are outside of the United States. No offense to anybody that's on that side or anything like that. It's just that once you leave the confines of the United States, rules are different, and as we know, threats can be different. And so I have them. That's one of my recent ones that, that's where the conversation started. One of my long-term clients does a lot of business with China. And as a result, they have a lot of concern about, being secure. And because they do so much of their work via email, email is a big deal to them. It always has been. It's like the lifeblood of their company. And so it has to be highly secure and highly reliable and so forth. So, conversations are still centered around solutions,
Mm-hmm.
but they're all wrapped in some form of, okay, how do I do it and be secure at the same time? So I'd say that really is how, the conversation has changed. I tell potential clients sometimes, if it's somebody that's brand new, to the idea of managing their IT rather than either doing it themselves or just having somebody part-time or whatever. When we're talking through that, what we offer them is the opportunity to do an assessment, and we'll just do a little gap analysis for them. What we see as places where they really should shore up their security versus
Mm-hmm.
what they have in place, and then talk about what that would cost and what it looks like to manage it. So those are the conversations of today, you know, and I'm sure AI is going to bring another level of some sort to that.
Yeah, but always leading with a solution, or I guess the path always being to the solution. I like that the conversation has shifted to, okay, we have this business problem. How do we fix it? But then ultimately, how do we make sure that's also secure? You talked about, hey, we've got to communicate with Japan. 10 years ago, that conversation might have been, hey, just how in the world do I communicate with these people in Japan on a consistent basis? Now it is, how do I make sure that the data that we're transferring is secure? I think
Yeah,
that's
that
great.
yeah, that's a great point. Even with that particular client, just because they're in rural Arkansas, internet is not necessarily the same quality that you and I enjoy, and so it still is sometimes a question of can I get connected?
Yep.
But yeah, certainly all of it's certainly wrapped in how do I do it and be secure.
So, Jim, you are somebody who's held customer relationships and client relationships for a very, very long time. Can you give us a little hint of your secret sauce when working with customers? How are you able to walk them through their IT and cybersecurity journey, year over year? Like you said, you've got customers you've had for now, 17 years.
Right. Yeah, I think the key to that is well, there's two pieces of it. You got to be good at what you do, right? You got to be authentic in your personality. You've got to be honest. You got to have customer service in mind, all the time. And I've had you know, just the blessing of being taught well in a couple of different companies how to serve, in a business environment well, and the whole customer service premise and so on and so forth. Um, I think the difference maker for me has always been the ability to understand the technology in a way that I can communicate it to the business person. So
Hmm.
I think that's absolutely critical. And there are a lot of people today. I see a lot of people on LinkedIn who are really, really good at doing that. And you know, I used to say we translated the technology into something that they can understand in the business language basically. And in some cases, I remember early on in my career, in some cases I still was too technical in how I explained things, and had some rough spots, trying to help people get to where they wanted to be. And so it's about the language, how we speak. We get caught up in the tech speak. I don't know how many acronyms I've already used. I'm sorry if I've overdone it, but we have our own language, and that's true in any industry.
Yep.
And I always set people at ease. And one of the first things still today in 2024, one of the first things a business owner will say to me is, "I don't know anything about technology." And in whatever industry they're in, I'll go, "Well, I'm not a doctor, so we're just going to call that level ground, and we're going to go
Yep.
from here."
Let's
And
let's learn from each other.
that's right. So if you can teach me what your problem is, I can probably find the technology to help you. So yeah, that's key. It's just again focusing on the technology, and you got to be competent in what you do, of course, but it's how you have the conversation and being able to be authentic in the conversation, be honest where you need to be honest, and that sounded silly. We're always going to be honest, but sometimes it's tougher, and you just got to be honest about whatever the problem is or whatever the environment is, and what's needed. And I think when you do that, it builds trust. You
Hmm.
know, our tagline at one time was "We are the text to trust," because I did that intentionally because I wanted people to understand that we understood that without the integrity and without the trust, we're going nowhere.
Yep.
We're going to have a questionable business, and that is not what we were after. We were looking for high integrity, high levels of trust, and I think we've built that over time. That people have found out. I always say the proof's in the pudding, right? And so in the end, I don't know that there's any particular secret sauce. You've heard me say integrity and trust a couple of times. That's probably it.
I like that though because anybody can land customers using, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, commonly known as FUD, to use another acronym. But you're not going to keep those customers. Those customers are going to realize that you took advantage of them, and they're going to leave after a year, 18 months, 2 years. They just won't stick around because they aren't perceiving the value. They don't see you as that trusted business advisor that they expected you to be. So the fact that you and your team were those techs you can trust or those true trusted advisors, that's why you've held on to those customer relationships over the past, 17 years and hopefully 17 more. So,
Yeah, that's
with,
what we would hope. It's difficult even today to, we always want to bring, again, the latest technology with the latest commentary and, and the latest knowledge and so forth. But again, just being, I'm always careful to make to be sure that I know what I'm talking about, or it's one of those things where you just go, let me get back to you. Let me consult our guys that are really in the trenches doing that, and we do that all the time. I'm bringing those
Oh yeah.
guys to the party all the time.
I am very upfront with every single prospect that I talk to. I am not technical, but I'll introduce you to my CTO that is very technical. Nope, I am the same way. I know what I don't know, and I think that's important to distinguish. So, Jim, with that in mind, I do want to plug the great work that you and the team over at Pinnacle do. So, tell us a little bit about Pinnacle.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that we serve the state of Arkansas. We're headquartered out of Little Rock, and we got together in 2019. So we merged and were acquired by what is now Pinnacle. It was the Computer Hut at the time, and we rebranded. And so now we have locations in 5 population centers around Arkansas. I'm in Northeast, which is Jonesboro. Little Rock again is the headquarters. And then we have Texarkana, which sits obviously on the border of Texas and Arkansas. We have Fort Smith, which is kind of center of the state going across Interstate 40 into Texas and Oklahoma. And then we have Northwest Arkansas, which borders, of course, Oklahoma and Missouri. And so all the surrounding states, Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, we have reach into all of those as well. So we truly are a regional MSP. We now have kind of rebranded ourselves as a technology solutions provider, and
I like
which
that.
kind of helps. I think that language switch helps people understand better what we do.
Agreed.
Yes, we still do all the managed services, help desk, cybersecurity, email, cloud, you know, voice over IP, Microsoft 365, the entire list. I always tell people we start asking questions, or they start asking questions about that. And I always say I'm pretty sure that if you've got a set of boxes, we probably check them all, but here are the differentiators. And we work in healthcare, legal, agriculture. I mentioned finance, local government, manufacturing, nonprofits. So a lot of different verticals that we find ourselves in. And we have expertise. Fortunately for us, we have leaders, salespeople, and technicians who are familiar with all of those areas, and some who specialize in those areas and have certain credentials. We work with law enforcement. We've got a group of people who are qualified and certified in certain things for that. So yeah, it's kind of set ourselves apart by being focused strictly on the technology.
Hmm.
We're not trying to be anything beyond that. We don't do like construction projects or get into security systems and things like that. We're strictly all of that uses technology, of course, but we're talking about the technology that runs the business, and
Right.
so that's where our focus is, and because of that, we're really strong in that area.
So, for those that want to reach out and learn more about how they might be able to work with Pinnacle, or more importantly, just get to know you, how do they do that best?
Yeah, so obviously I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me here on LinkedIn, and you can find me at pinnacleit.com. If you look at the different locations, you'll find me on there, and then directly contact me by email, jbryant@pinnacleit.com, or the phone number is 8.
Awesome. Well, Jim, thank you very much for jumping on. It was a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been a privilege, and it's been fun.